Welcome back to part 2 of the Josh Brookes TT podcast. In part 1, we went all the way through Australia, your World Championship debuts, winning in Phillip Island in the Supersport class, and we fast forward all the way to British Superbikes now. We're at 2013, and you decided you wanted a piece of action on the Isle of Man TT, so you came across with the Taiko Suzuki team. How did you go about transitioning from, and we've spoken about this off camera, these Australian tracks that you used to race at, big wide open plains. Like you said, if you missed your braking marker, you just go straight through the desert, turn around and come back. You come to Alton Park, you come to Cadwell Park, it's a completely different kettle of fish. But then take it up another notch, you decide that you want the walls slightly closer, you want some houses, some street furniture. Like, why?
It's just the lure of the event. Like I said, when I first arrived, at the start-finish area and saw bikes coming through, they're race bikes. That's all I've done all my life. So if there's a race, then I want in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just you can't help it. You're just drawn in. That's what you've done all your life. So, I mean, obviously, I thought about the fact that you're more exposed, but I had a motorcycle license on the road before I had a car license. So I'd done years of riding on the road, commuting to work and, being amongst traffic and buses and, trying to ride old crappy bikes that I could afford as fast as they could go.
Yeah.
And even that sometimes wasn't above the speed limit, because they were so crappy, but it was, so I was like, well, it's actually a perfect match. It's got my road riding that I've done, for years, and my racing that I've done all my life, and we're going to merge the two. It just seemed like, why not? Why wouldn't I? And in fact, I kind of questioned myself why I hadn't done this before. I was like, why have I waited so long to get into this? And I actually felt like the urgency to get on the grid seemed to be elevated. I was like, I don't want to miss another year, because I actually asked to do it. I didn't go about it the right. I didn't actually even know the right way to go about it. After I'd come in 2009, I said to like Harvey and Neil Tuxworth, who were in control of Honda, I'd do the TT, and I think they thought I was just looking for a reaction or something like that. I don't think they actually really took it seriously. And then it's sort of like, I think, and also I didn't know how long the preparation was, so I didn't know if you just sort of mentioned it a couple of weeks before and they put a bike in for you, I genuinely didn't really know what to do about going racing. So I kind of mentioned it a couple of times, but it never. I don't think it took any traction. So then I moved for BSB. I ended up moving to Taiko Suzuki, which at the time was Relentless Suzuki at first. So. I spoke to Philip Neal because they did the TT as well. So it was just happened to be, from one team that does TT to another team that does TT.
You didn't look out for them as a team that did the TT and went.
It wasn't. The primary focus at the time was to get, a good team for BSB, and I felt like that was a good move. But as a byproduct, I had a roads option as well. So. I spoke to Philip Neal about it, and he kind of really shut it down. He was like, "No, you don't need to do it. There's no point in you focusing on that. You can just focus on the BSB." And so I kind of like went back in my shell a little bit. But then when I was at the TT in 11, because again I went to as a spectator, it really heightened that interest to go. So I really put forward to go and ride it in 2012. And I even done it I didn't get it over the line to actually get on the grid, but I did a parade lap. So I convinced him enough that I was like really interested, but it just wasn't enough to get an entry. And then the following year, 2013, so it was quite a long period of time, me chipping away, trying to find like an opening. And at that time, there wasn't, I don't know, I mean, there was certainly people going, doing BSB and the TT at that time, but it wasn't, to me, it felt like there was a bit of a divide at that time. That's how it felt to me anyway. So I felt like I was sort of going against the grain a little bit. And so I actually ended up having a conversation with Philip Neal. I said, look, if you don't let me ride the TT this year, I'm going to go and sign for Paget's or someone that will let me, ride the TT. And I felt like I didn't really want it to be an ultimatum, but that's essentially what it was. And he said to me, well, I'm not paying you to do it. Like he thought maybe I was doing it for the wrong reasons. So he was thinking, I hope you don't think that there's a big financial incentive that's luring you over to do this risky event. So he said, oh, you can do it, but I'm not paying you a cent. You can do it all on your own. As in, like, get over there with your camper or whatever you do. Like, he'll obviously supply the bike and the equipment to do it, but it wasn't. He made it very clear it wasn't to be a financial motivation. And I was like, yep, cool, right, we're locked in. So that's sort of how that came. It was quite a challenge to actually get on the grid.
So do you think that was a bit of a test from him to say, if you're serious about this, you'd do it?
Oh, definitely, 100% was a test. Yeah. He just wanted to know that it was like motivated for the right
and
reasons.
Was he fully behind you and supporting you to go forward with that?
And honestly, I couldn't have been a better platform to start the TT.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, I had a fully prep, like a team that has absolute years of experience at being prepped for the Isle of Man TT. The bike I was on was the bike I was been racing every weekend in BSB. So I just hopped on a bike that was absolutely familiar to me, and then just set off on a track that I was, a little bit unfamiliar with. But it was the perfect environment. Like I feel so lucky, really, to have had that opportunity. There must be so many racers that have wanted to race, but then how many TT racers have had to buy a bike, prep a bike, get it over on in a van, have their dad and their uncle and their friend and their neighbour come and help, spanner the bike during the TT period, and they maybe don't have any TT experience, so you've got to kind of, coach them. Honestly, I feel so lucky to have had the opportunities I've had to ride in the TT in the way that I've got in, and I don't envy any of the guys that have got to do it kind of like the grassroots way.
Yeah. What was your preparation like?
I think it was good. I come over here a lot. I can't think how many times I come over, but obviously I've already explained how long it was before I actually got the entry. So every year that I came, when I didn't race, I was looking at the track with the idea that I was going to race the next year. And even though it was the year after and the year after before it happened, each time I came, I was thinking, well, I need to learn this place, And so I'd borrow a bike, or even one time I even did a bus tour with John McGuinness. He wasn't telling much about the track, but, I thought, well, he was making more jokes than he was talking about the actual track itself. But, I did a bus tour. And I just thought, if I can learn anything, I'll learn it from anyone. I've been around the track with Jason Griffith, and a whole list of people. Anyone that I saw that's ever been around the track before, I was like, hey, do you want to jump in the car? We'll go and do a lap. So I was just like trying to be open-minded as possible and be a sponge, and learn as much as I could from anybody. And you might do a whole lap and only learn one thing from that particular person you went around with, but that one thing is maybe better than not having had it at all.
To the rest of the
stuff. I don't know exactly, but I did a kind of like a guesstimation of how many times I'd been here and how many laps I could remember doing, and I'd got it in the vicinity of about 100 laps I'd done in a car or a bus or a bike or whatever. And I got to the point where I'd exhausted going around in a car. Like, even if I come again and again, I don't think I just got to that point. I was like, it doesn't matter. I can't do any more laps in a car and learn anything more. I know where the track goes.
You're ready to ride.
The only thing I can do now that's actually going to be of any value to me is wait for them to give me free rein to go.
Again, it's a completely different beast.
When
you let loose.
The scariest lap I've ever done around here was the lap after Milky, because I knew where I was going, so I knew all the track.
That's after your very first lap behind.
Yeah, so when they give you the newcomers lap, you set off, and so I went around the circuit, and you just sort of just following the leader sort of thing. You're in a row of 3 or 4 or 5 riders, and you just follow on the leader, and then after that lap's done, you've had your initiation lap, and Milky comes in, and then right now you're on your own. So I think, okay, I'll set off, and then it's so weird how much you think you know, but you only know it at 30 mile an hour, because that's how many, like, you've done 100 laps of the track, but you've only done it at 30 mile an hour in sections, because that's the speed limit.
Yep.
So when you come into a corner at 100 mile an hour, it looks a lot different than what it does at 30 mile an hour. So all of a sudden, like, corners that you didn't even know were corners have become corners.
Like kinks become
and,
corners.
Yeah, and then there's bits that you really thought were important, and they just evaporate. They just disappear. You don't even notice them. You think, why was I focused so much on that area, learning it, and it's just straight through it. It's like a straight line.
So once you'd gone out after Milky, what part of the course did you find was the easiest to pick up, the easiest to learn through kind of closed circuit racing?
Most people, which was a surprise, most people always kind of go, you must love the mountain because you come from short circuit. I hated the mountain. I like, for years, I hated the mountain because there was no reference point. I felt like I was on the surface of the moon compared to, it just felt like so alien up there. And, you know, you'd roll into corners and like 50p in the apexes, and it took me a long time before I got comfortable on the mountain. The bits that came, I think, not easy, but that came quickly are all the like famous points, because they're the points that you remember the most, like the bottom of Bray Hill. You know what I mean? It's like everybody that's been here knows that corner. You know, so it's just one that really like logs in your head. It's so familiar because people talked about it so much.
Do you like it or dislike it?
No, I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah, no, I've never really had any fear with, like, obviously people highlight the bottom of Bray Hill and make out like it's this really treacherous section of the track, but
see, for me, we asked this question a lot there, you know, and obviously we spoke, Chris asked you about setting off from the start line, Nan comes off his shoulder. My first thought was, oh God, I've got to go down that Bray Hill again. Yeah. With a full tank of gas and cold tyres. Yeah. Because it wasn't the bottom, it was the fast approach and the blind approach of the left kink, getting that left kink right before the...
Yeah, well, the top of Bray Hill is intimidating. I found that bit, like, just after St Ninians, when you got to do this like bit of a weave at the top of the hill there. That was intimidating. I didn't enjoy that bit at first.
That's literally like dropping off the face of the earth.
But as soon as you can see to the bottom, it's like that's mint. Then you're flying through. But I've so I've found that I've gotten most comfortable with all the famous parts. You know, like Bluff Bridge and Solby Strait and you know Ginger Hall and you know all these like landmark points. Like they were bits that I learned and remembered the quickest because they were like significant points on the track, and then I had to just fill in the blurry bits in between. Yeah. So
just connect the dots.
Yeah. So they were the bits I got kind of confident with first, and then I had to as I say, like fill in the blanks. A few areas took a while to really find your way through.
What did you hate the most? Most uneasy with? What section?
Yeah, there's a couple of spots. So I don't know why. Like I know that I make these errors, but I still replay the errors each time I do it. So when you come towards Gorse-Lee, it's a fast right, but there's a right hander just before it, like with stone buildings before it, and it always turned too much. So then I've got track on the left, so I've actually got to steer left
wasting track.
But but where if you just let the bike roll right out to the edge, you're in the perfect spot to take the next right-hander. But because I turned too much at the first one, then I have to actually consciously go left again to then be in the right place. And I do it over and over again. I'm sure, I can't remember exactly the last laps I did. I'm sure I got the better of it, but I just remember repeating these same mistakes, and you come into an area and you think, right, don't do it this lap, and you still do the same thing again anyway. It's like this self-preservation is stronger than your conscious mind. Another one is like breaking into Henleys. Like I'd accelerate and I'd jump on the brakes, and then I'd almost have to get back on the throttle again because I brake so early. And then you'd tell yourself, right, remember last lap how early you got on the brakes? You can go a lot later, like a lot later. You know that. And then you watch your hand still go, and you're like, stop it, hand. You know, like we got to keep going. And then another one that I mess up regularly is so Rain Cullen. At the end of Kirkmichael, there's a fast left-hander, and then you come over a rise, and then it goes into a bumpy right. So over that rise and that position, and then getting into that bumpy right, I don't think I've ever gone through there and went, oh, that was sweet, I got it. Yeah. Every single time I come through, nah, that was bad. But then there's other bits like the next jump that jumps down the hill. Love that jump. I look forward to it. I can't wait every time. Boom, straight over, and like just mint, you know. So, and then I was surprised. Like I was in the van with Hickey last night, and we're driving through that next section, like that Alpine section.
Yep.
And he was saying, oh, you know, I don't know about now, but he was speaking of times when he goes, oh, I just wasn't really confident through here. And I was like, that's a bit that I never really even thought of. You know, I mean, I've always kind of thought it's pretty much flat through there, isn't it?
Gas.
Yeah, full gas, and like you kind of got to roll off for the as you go over like a rise and a right hander at Alpine. But apart from that, it's pretty like for me. I've just thought, well, I don't know why, but that bit came pretty natural to me. And then, so everyone has their own speed and way of learning, I suppose. So it's different for everybody.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be sat in the back of that van and listening to them talk. It was, as a fan, it was absolutely fascinating to hear the differences in gear changes, how they both approach a corner slightly differently, and the fact that someone like yourself and Pete, what part? There was somewhere where Pete was like, "Oh, I don't like this bit," and you just wouldn't think, as the fastest man
around the track,
he would have any fear.
Like.
Yeah.
So with that, obviously moving on to 2023, do you think that's a positive or a negative, having the fastest man around?
Oh, definitely a positive. Obviously, it's a negative if you want to try and beat him.
Yeah.
But I know it doesn't matter which team.
Is that not Josh Brookes' mindset
to beat him?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so at some point. Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't. I don't sit here now and think, oh, right, this year's target is to try and beat Peter Hickman. I think that's. I mean, people would say, oh, you've lost your racing edge, but I just, you know, with the time I've had off and the speed that he's got, you know, and I know that I've got the ingredients for it. Like we're very close matched at BSB with our lap times and stuff like that. So I know I've got what it takes there to match what he can do on a bike. We're in the same team, so we've got the same equipment. You know, I've had a lot of like I was the fastest newcomer in 13. He was the fastest newcomer in 14. You know what I mean? Like, so we're very much on a level playing field in a lot of aspects of how we're ready to go racing. But having four TT years away, that's a big gap to fill. You know, so I don't think it's a realistic or a good, healthy decision to come in here going, I think I'm going to turn up there and I'm going to beat Peter Hickman. You know, I mean, it just.
I don't think you can ever have that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't anyway.
Yeah,
but it's more the case of, and I was joking.
Yeah, I think on paper,
not that you're not capable. I didn't mean that. But so what really is I mean, you've done 31.7 on the Norton last time you was here, which is flipping fast. You know, I've done a lot of riding on that Norton, and that's good times. You know, very respectable. So what would Josh Brookes be happy with at the end of 2003, as in a lap time? I'm not really worried about the results because
I don't really know what the target should be. Like, I mean, I think it's already predetermined. It's prefixed. Whatever speed my body and mind and skills can endure. You know what I mean? So, like I was saying to you before, there's like this self-preservation mechanism that's stronger than your conscious mind steps in and stops you from doing things that are too dangerous. So when my vision and feeling of the bike and the track are at ease, it'll let me go quicker and quicker. And I can't control that to a degree. Obviously, it's me doing physical work, but it's my, I guess, whatever you're born with that's inside of you that allows you to operate at a speed, and how quickly you learn the track and learn the task at hand is going to determine what speed I can do. So that might mean I can do it on the second day of practice, or it might mean until the last day of the last race of the racing week. You know what I mean? I don't know how quickly that journey is going to process, but I can't force it. It's one of those things you have to just let it be what it is. So I can try and speculate where I think is possible, but I don't actually know until I've felt it. So it's got to be something that I experience as you all watch it. You know what I mean? It's going to be.
You seem like a very logical. You go about your business very logically, but do you feel like when you look back now, those years that you've missed, the fact that you were on the Norton, that we can say, well, it wasn't capable of potentially winning. Do you feel like if you were on better machinery and you'd not taken those years out, that you could be there or thereabouts where Pete and Dean are now?
Yeah, I'd have to believe that. I mean, I wouldn't be sat here like lining up to do it if I didn't think that was possible. So yeah, I do. I think if I was given the same opportunity and time and options to progress at the same rate, I think I'd be on that podium, battling with whoever's there on the day. So my
prediction is Josh Brookes will get in the 34s by senior.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I'd be happy with that. I mean, no matter what happens, I'm not going to be angry. Fashion. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I'd like to think so. And there's so many variables. But
within your career, are there any other disciplines that you want to attack? Are there any other goals that you want to achieve?
Yeah,
endurance, the 8 hour, 24 hours off. You're a massive motocross fan. You've got a huge collection of motocross bikes back home. Is that something you like to have? You're big mates with David Knight. Is that something you like to?
Yeah, I mean, I
know you're not spring chicken anymore, obviously.
No, I'm not spring chicken. Yeah, that's something that I think about a bit more these days. But something that, I mean, like standing on the podium at Suzuka was pretty, awesome. We got second, so I feel like I've got unfinished business there. But I don't know, when that opportunity might present itself again, So every time I race Suzuka 8 Hour, I swear I'll never go back again. But so I'm wondering, should I listen to my mind that said I'm never going back? Honestly, it's torture, and it's so torturous, that event.
Because of the heat, the humidity.
The heat. It's a sprint race.
You cannot. I've never been set light to, but I believe it's the nearest you'll ever get. When you put the pit lane limiter and come down pit lane, you've got all the heat off the flipping engine cut. Right, mate, you just cannot. It's painful.
Yeah, it's only people that could relate properly to it is people that have ridden the event. It's so painful.
And it's 8 hours on lap record pace.
Yeah, it's like a BSB sprint race for 8 hours. And it's so torturous. And I made it onto the podium. We got second one year, and we were so close. Like we were a genuine chance of had things gone a little better. We were a genuine chance of winning. So it was a beautiful moment to be on the podium. That's so cool. But
it's actually easier than 24 hours.
Yeah, okay. I've never done a 24-hour. I've toyed with the idea of doing world endurance, like a 24-hour race. Some of my friends say, "Oh, you'd be perfect for a 24-hour race," because I tend to be like a bit of a diesel in the way that when I'm going, I kind of get my pace and I just keep going and going and just keep chugging along.
The biggest reason is because you need to adapt all the time.
Yeah.
It might be a crash bike, something not quite right with a tyre, with a component, with something. And you've got to read it, you've got to feel that, you've got to adjust to it and still be fast.
And you're on a shared bike with a bunch of other riders, so you never have the bike how you want it. It's how everybody
I love
works
it.
it.
Are you setting up a team or something? Are you trying to?
No. It's just because I know what Josh is like. He's very mechanically minded. He's into his 2 strokes, 4 strokes, and so on. But it just and he can adapt well to different things when he's riding. So I think it'd be really
So I've toyed with the ideas of doing like some world endurance races. I've been asked to do a few, and I've had to it doesn't work with my BSB preparation and stuff like that. So I've been close to doing some world endurance races, and obviously have done the Suzuka 8 Hour.
What about some motocross? Some of the vet stuff on some of your old 500 motocross bikes.
Well, I've done that. I rode Farley Castle in.
I haven't seen you, but you're supposed to be half decent on a.
Yeah, I try to be. I don't like
not
my
as
style.
Good as your brother, obviously.
No, not as good as him. But I don't like my style on a bike. I never had any coaching as a kid, so I developed some really bad riding posture technique. And I've just carried that all my life, and I've tried to break away, because you watch pros in motocross pictures and videos, and you think, oh, they look so cool on the bike, and then you see a picture of yourself, and you're like, oh my god, is that how I look? So, I can ride, I'd say, quite fast on a motocross bike, but I'm not proud of how it looks. So I think I consciously try and improve my technique and styling, but it doesn't come
take speed
naturally.
Over style any day of the week.
But I did ride the Farley Castle Vets Motocross Donations a few years ago. Philip Neal went mad, because obviously I didn't tell anyone. I just entered and raced. And he was like, can you imagine if you got injured? I'd have to ring up, the manufacturer and say, oh yeah, we're not at the next BSB round because our rider's got injured, crashed his motocross bike in a motocross race. So then I went I don't know if it was the following year, it might have been the year after, but I got someone else to enter, so my name wasn't on the entry list to try and avoid being found out.
You rocked up.
And I got dragged off the grid because someone recognised me, and I was telling, like, people were hovering around me going, oh hey Josh, and I'm going, go away, go, and there was a guy, there was a guy, like one of the officials or whatever. He I don't know how he clocked through the goggles and the helmet and stuff on, because I was always like keeping my head down and things like that. But I don't know, maybe someone pulled his shirt and said, "Oh, yeah, that's Josh Brookes over there," or what. But anyway, dragged me off the grid, and I said, "Look, I can't enter the race under my own name because I don't want to get in trouble." And he wasn't buying it. I don't know what he thought I was doing, but. Yeah, so he gave me a load of grief with that, and I actually got a letter from the ACU and things like that. But I wasn't actually even licensed in the ACU. I was licensed in Australia, so it was like there was a disconnect. But either way, I was like, right, that's it. I don't need headaches in my racing. I'll just stick to what I do, and I won't create waves anymore. I'll just be a good boy. So I have toyed with doing some motocross events, but I ride motocross all the time, like for training, but I consciously avoid races because I have that lack of self-restraint when it's a race. You always go that bit further. I can practice weeks and months and years, in fact, without injury. But then when there's a race, you sort of always turn it up a bit, don't you? So
knock it to 11.
I try and restrain from the racing.
We're going to finish off, Steve.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Quick fires.
Right, quick fire questions.
I hate quick fire questions.
It's one or the other. I
haven't got a quick fire brain.
Just two. Just one or the other. Nothing else.
Okay, that's all right. I can
Beer or wine?
Beer.
2-stroke or 4-stroke?
2.
Pineapple or never pineapple on a pizza?
No, pineapple's all right on a pizza.
Good lad. Mick Doohan or Casey Stoner?
Mick Doohan. Sorry, Casey.
Okay. Peter Hickman or David Knight?
If you have to be quick, I don't know what's the basis of that question.
You answer how you feel you need to answer it.
David Knight.
Grandstand to Ballacrane or Ginger Hall to Ramsey?
Oh, grandstand to Ballacrane. Easy.
Motocross Grand Prix winner or senior TT winner?
Oh, senior TT, yeah, 100%.
Carburetors or fuel injection?
Oh, fuel injection. But I'd have to support my comment with a whole long conversation. But no, fuel injection.
Cambridge, UK or Sydney, Australia?
Sydney, Australia.
2023 British Superbike champion or TT winner?
TT winner.
Good answer.
Nice one. Josh, best of luck. We'll see you up on the grid soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
So there we have it, Steve. Josh Brookes, like I said at the top, no real pressure on him to perform, but he's chomping at the bit to prove himself again back here, isn't he?
Without doubt. He's such an interesting character, as well. Again, we could have him back on podcast and talk so much.
Yeah, I've shared a taxi with him a couple of times while I've been on the island.
Bet he paid.
They were free. So it didn't matter. But my point being, as soon as he gets rolling with any mechanical questions, like we were sat with the Birchells, he was just asking them all about the engine, what they're doing to the engine, how they make it perform, how they get more performance out of it. He's so mechanically minded. And again, you look at him as one of those riders, 2 times British Superbike champion, who just goes, "Where's my bike?" and goes. But he likes to be in the trenches with the boys, doesn't he?
Talent. Yeah, massive talent. And I think...
He's still sticking by that podium prediction?
100%. Yep. He'll be on the podium this year. Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
But then again, you need a podium of like 10 riders of who we want to see on the podium.
I know. Yeah.
This has been the Josh Brookes episode of the TT podcast. Make sure you leave us a review and you like and you hit that subscribe button wherever you listen or watch these podcasts. We've got more star-studded guests coming and a big podcast next week as we preview TT 2023. That episode will be out on the 26th of May, just days before the start of the TT. Make sure you subscribe because we are going daily throughout the whole fortnight of the TT as well. Until then, though, Steve, I guess I'll catch you out on the island again.
Mate, it'd be like having a full-time job.
Never.